has only 4 words. This one's for John. This one's for Pat.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Interviewing Broncos Country. Super pumped up about our guest today. Somebody that makes Broncos content himself, somebody that I've been following on YouTube for a little bit, and super excited to have him in here. I put a comment on one of his videos and he actually got back to me. So super pumped to introduce Strez to the podcast. What's up, buddy?
How's it going? Dude, that intro gets me so hyped.
Dude, I know.
I love that.
It's almost too hype where it's like, I don't know how to start the video after that without just like,
right. Like maintain that level of hype the entire time.
Right. But yeah, the giant Broncos helmet at the end of that video was actually taken outside of Indianapolis at the Combine this year.
Oh, that was this year.
Yeah,
Nice.
I just retired from the Navy and I moved to Tennessee. And I was like, man, that's only a 3-hour drive to the Combine.
Yeah.
So I hopped in my car and drove up there. And that was the day that the record was broken, the 40-yard dash.
Nice. And unfortunately, he went to the evil people.
Right. All right. And Buffalo.
What are they doing?
I know.
They give their kryptonite the best weapon possible. That's just the dumbest. I hate it.
No sense.
I don't even want to talk about that.
So we were just talking a little bit before we went live. He said, I go by Strez, nicknamed that in college. So I was going to ask you then, but I'd rather ask you now. So where'd you go to college, and maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, how you became a Broncos fan?
Yeah. So my backstory is it's all football. Football is the entirety of kind of who I am as a person. So I'm actually from a small town in Northwest Arkansas. And when you live in Arkansas, you don't have a pro team that you're born into being forced to cheer for, which I was really lucky for. But the majority of football fans in Northwest Arkansas are either Cowboys fans or Chiefs fans. And I'm obviously neither of those. Didn't want any part of it. And the funny thing, too, is my mom is from the Bay Area in California. So I was actually raised by a Raiders fan. And my dad, when he was in the Navy Honor Guard, he did a lot of his time in Washington, D.C. So he's a fan of the football team that hails from Washington, whatever their name is in the next, over the next 5 years. But so my football fandom is incredibly unique, I feel like. But really the reason why it was the Denver Broncos was just as a child, I have a lot of family that lived in Loveland. All their offspring, a lot of them live there still, but a lot of people have moved away. But when I was growing up, just had family members sending me, Elway posters and Wheaties boxes with Ed McCaffrey on them. And my favorite Terrell Davis Got Milk poster. So it just was a thing that happened when I was really young. And I have always loved the Denver Broncos. And then, growing up, I played football for 17 years. I played all the way through college, and that's what got me to Kansas City, was to move to college, to go to college here at a Division II school and play running back at the Division II level. And now I'm stuck in Chiefs Kingdom, and it's awful. I married a Chiefs fan. Her whole family is Chiefs fans. So it's a weird thing, but love makes people do weird things, right?
Yeah. Do you guys have the house divided rug or bumper sticker?
We don't have any of those. She's like not a super fan of football like I am, but she does, she has Chiefs memorabilia and Chiefs merch and stuff. But her grandma made us a pillow that's house divided. It's like a body pillow, and it's got, fabric of Chiefs and Broncos on it. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, man, that's a tough one. A Chiefs fan. So, like, did you know that when you were dating, or were you already in love when you found out?
I was in love the moment I saw her, I think. I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, it happens. I'm
People feel weird about, love at first sight or whatever, but yeah, so it didn't really matter who she rooted for. But over time, anytime I meet someone new, because I live in Kansas City, anytime I meet someone new, I kind of hold off on the fact that I don't like their football team until I know for sure that they like me or they want to keep me around. So
Yeah, I didn't really I wasn't a non-believer at love at first sight, but I wasn't necessarily like a believer. I was just kind of in the middle. And the girl I'm with right now, that totally happened. Like I was at the American Legion doing a military thing, and she was just singing karaoke, and she walked over to our table, and we looked each other in the eyes, and it was like we were both captivated.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and we've been dating now for, half a year, but it's going really great. So I totally get that love at first sight stuff. Didn't get it before, but now I do. But that's cool, man. So you played running back in college. Were you like more of a bruiser, or were you more like a razzle dazzle? Like, you have speed?
I wasn't the fastest. My fastest 40 that I clocked was my freshman year, and I hit a 4.5 flat,
That's
which
good.
isn't slow. I mean, I was about as fast as, half of the running backs that were in the combine this last year, but they were all a lot stronger and a lot bigger than me. I'm 5'6", so I was a shorter guy.
Okay.
But I was kind of a power back, but I did have a pretty mean spin move. I like to tell people that, but
Yeah. Do you still have like any highlights on YouTube out there in the?
they're not really. I was never one to put highlights together for myself or anything like that. So I just have to rely on like the teams that I played for, my high
Right.
school team and my college team, just going and finding their videos and being like, oh, hey, there's me. There's
Right.
33 on the field. So yeah.
You must have been a big Paint Hillis guy. Do you chew tobacco? Do you drive a truck?
No, Peyton Hillis is the man, though. That he is an absolute legend
Yeah.
in the state of Arkansas. Yeah, Peyton Hillis, Darren McFadden, Felix Jones. That backfield was crazy.
Yeah, what?
Actually, I just watched the Swamp People or the Swamp Kings documentary about the Florida
Dude, so
football
good.
team, and they were talking about that SEC championship when Florida had to play Arkansas, and I was like, man, Darren McFadden, what a dude. He missed out on 2 Heismans just because of the guys who actually won it. Those were the only people that would have beat him. So it
Yeah.
was yeah.
And man, I thought he could have been so much more in the NFL. I
Yeah.
really did. Not that he was a bust by any means, but
He just went to the wrong organization.
exactly.
This
And
kind of
it
happens when you go to the Raiders.
Right. And that goes for everybody. So, I was watching your video earlier. You went through, highly recommend it. Like I said, host of Broncos Hub. You started off week one by saying that Denver was going to make a statement win. I love that. I think so. I think so too. So for Bo Nix to go to Seattle, of course we know it's a hostile environment, but when you say a statement win, does that just mean winning the game? Because I know you said that you couldn't see the spreads because sports betting's not legal in Arkansas. But Denver has the second worst spread. I don't know how to say that. They're favored to lose by the second most points, is what I was.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
-6, I think, it's a 6-point
yeah, I
spread.
think I saw it open at, I think, 6.5. It might have been bet down a little bit, but is a statement win just Denver winning the game? Or are we talking like a 10-point win?
Yeah, I don't think a 10-point win is out of the question. I definitely think that is, in the realm of possibilities, but I've actually am finishing my week 1 prediction video, and in that video I kind of talk about um the offense just going out there and looking competent,
Hmm.
not taking sacks, u- useless sacks, not taking negative plays, staying on schedule. And so I think that's really all it has to take for this Broncos team really is just to get the win. And I think the statement would really be the defense looking good, even just like the least bit amount of good, because they were so bad last year for the majority of the season. Obviously, there was that 5-game stretch where they were taking the ball away at historical numbers.
Mhm.
But I think if the defense is able to show up and show out and actually put together a solid outing, and then if Bo Nix just leads a competent offense, um, I think that they can and should score on just about every drive, kind of like we saw with Bo Nix's offense in the preseason. Whether it's field goals or touchdowns, just we can't have drives stopping with just dumb sacks
Yeah.
and delay of game penalties and pre-snap, all the pre-snap penalties. So yeah, I think, like you said, I think a statement win would really just be for the Broncos to go out and win a game that they are favored to lose by a touchdown plus, I think is all it would take.
Yeah, and you mentioned the defense. I would love to talk about that because I was actually at the game where they gave up 70. It was in Miami. My family's in Miami, so I visit there frequently, and I was doing kind of a traveling situation where I was trying to interview Bronco fans on the road. So I was at the home opener against the Raiders, which we lost. And then I went to Miami, and that was embarrassing. But they did turn around the season. When you look at their numbers for the final 10 games, they were a top 10 defense in a
Yeah.
lot of categories. So when the mainstream media talks about the Broncos, I can't tell if I'm a homer or if they're lazy.
Yeah, they're not watching the games. They're just reading the overall stats.
Yeah, exactly. Because everybody almost is like, Denver's got a terrible defense, and they bring up that game. And it's like, that seems so long ago.
Yeah.
It really does. And um, what what do you expect out of the defense this year? I mean, Vance Joseph goes into year 2. They add some pieces. Riley, do you think Riley's gonna become, cornerback number 2? They bring in Miami. What's his name? The safety for Miami,
Brandon Jones.
Brandon Jones.
Yeah.
I looked up his PFF grade yesterday. He was a top 10 safety on PFF.
Yeah, he was fantastic last season.
So I mean, of course, losing Justin Simmons sucks in a lot of different ways, but that makes it a little more doable. What are your expectations for the defense? Because if the offense is better than they were last year, which I think they will be,
Yeah.
just because I think, honestly, Bo Nix is already an upgrade over Russell Wilson, that, okay, well, if the defense can hold their own and we can score more points, I mean, this is a team that beat the Bills. I mean, yeah, a lot of these wins were kind of weird and they needed a little bit of, acts of God to happen, but they still played very good teams tough. Even when they lost to the Chiefs, I think the Chiefs were held under 20 points.
Yeah.
When they beat the Chiefs, they were held under 10. Like, Denver showed a lot of promise last season. They just couldn't they couldn't fire on all cylinders. When the defense was doing better, the offense was kind of dragging their feet, and vice versa. So if the defense is, say, even 15 or better, overall yards allowed, ranked 15th or better, like, could you see a scenario where Denver, I know you predict 9-8, but I feel like that's the not to, say that's a bad prediction, but it feels like the safest prediction.
Right.
But if Denver's defense, let's say they're a top 12 defense, like, does that number jump from 9 to maybe 10 or 11?
Yeah. No, I definitely see a scenario in which, our ceiling is actually a 12-win team. The ball bouncing a different way in 3 of these games. I could see that definitely happening. And I made my predictions with kind of the expectation that our defense was going to be kind of the same kind of defense that we're accustomed to in Denver. For so long, we got so accustomed to having a top 10 defense year in and year out. I mean, the year we won the Super Bowl is the best year of defensive team I think I've ever seen. And, being able to overcome, bad quarterback play from Peyton Manning, honestly, and, relatively average quarterback play from Brock Osweiler at that point. But yeah, I think this season going into it, I have pretty high expectations for our defense because they went out and they got Malcolm Roach and they got John Franklin Myers and they, Zach Allen, he came on in the second half of the season last year. And I think anytime I listen to people kind of talk about the Broncos defensive line, they for some reason forget that DJ Jones is still in the building. We forget these guys that we have, that are still around and still in the building. And they got bullied a little bit last season. Our run defense specifically got bullied a little bit. And I think Baron Browning, Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito all have another year under their belt in that system. So I think it's all going to start out with the front seven. And I think that they can essentially make Riley Moss look like the guy that a lot of people think that he can be. Just a good compliment to Pat Surtain on the other side of the field is kind of really all we've been asking for since PS2 came into the league. So I do think that the defense is going to be a top half of the league defense. And I definitely can see how that could move that win total into the double digits easily.
Yeah. And Chris Abrams and Jonah Ellis, I think, are going to make an immediate impact.
Jonah Ellis is specifically.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see what because I can see him, when you look at the guys that we have at that outside linebacker, defensive end position, whatever they want to call it, they're not very big. Like Baron Browning is a massive human, but in the grand scheme of things on an NFL field, he's not that big. And so I think that's kind of a part of the reason why we get pushed around a little bit in the run game. But like I said, we beefed up the middle three, and then Jonah Ellis, we brought him in, and he's, he's the biggest guy that we've got on the outside, on the edge there. So I'm excited to see what he's able to do.
Do you think he's already our best pass rusher?
Jonah Ellis?
Yeah.
No, I think he has the potential to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Baron Browning is our best pass rusher for sure.
Yeah, Baron Browning, and I say this lightly, but he has that bend that reminds you of Von Miller.
Just his entire play style looks like Von. And I kind of see a lot of the same traits in Nick Bonito as well. His jump is so fast. He's unreal to watch. When he's got the snap count, the quarterback's screwed. Like there's no other way to put it other than like if Nick Bonito knows when the ball's going to be snapped, you are screwed, right? Yeah, and we saw it at the end of the Bears game last year. Like he timed that snap perfectly, got the strip sack on Justin Fields, and the rest is history. That was our first win, and it came at the perfect time. So
yeah, I do a podcast separately with a guy in the Navy called The Only Football Podcast. He's a huge Bears fan, so we streamed that game together.
I bet that was fun.
Oh, do you talk about a tale of two halves?
I mean, my God. Yeah.
That was rough. And then there was a weird stat where like the Commanders game and the Bears game, in the first half of both of those games, the quarterbacks were like 55 for 55, like attempts and completions. Like that's were just historically bad. And then we kind of started figuring it out. But yeah, I think there's nothing more fun to watch than an edge rusher that has just a great jump. Like that is the most fun to watch. Remember Von Miller, like I used to look forward to the defense coming onto the field just to watch Von Miller play.
Yeah. You watch it with people who are maybe not fans of the Broncos, or that, they're fans of the team that you're playing against. They're like, he's offsides. It's like, no, he's not. He literally just timed it as perfectly as possible.
Yeah. So, okay. I was actually, but we'll move off the Seahawks game, but I was actually at the Russell Wilson return to Seattle game. I was stationed in Whidbey Island. So when that game was on the schedule, of course I was going to drive to it. So, that was really, really, just tough, really tough to sit.
We should have known after that happened what the rest of the time was going to look like.
Yeah. I honestly, that was it. Like that was, as much as we wanted to say like, oh, this is just, early season jitters. Like that was what we were going to get for the next, year. That was just, it didn't get any better. And the fumble from Javonte Williams on the goal line, the clock management at the end of that game. We don't have to relive it, but
and the one from Melvin Gordon.
the one from Melvin Gordon, which
Yeah.
it's hard to keep track of his. But lining up for that field goal, man, I got to tell you, like, I don't know how it looked on TV. Well, I do because I watched it later, but in person, it looked ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like,
there's no way they're actually going to kick this, right?
yeah, like
there's
when
no
you're
way.
lining up on the other side of the 50, it just looks ridiculous. Like, people in Seattle were just like, does he have the leg? They were asking me. And I was like, yeah, I mean,
It's
he
right on the
does,
cusp,
but
yeah.
it just doesn't make it the right decision. They're averaging 5 yards per play. It's 4th and 4. And then at least if you're going to kick the field goal, call a timeout. That whole thing was just strange. So now Russ, in his second revenge game, is a Steeler coming to Denver. I paid an absurd amount of money to fly to this game.
Nice.
No, I was actually I was waiting on Ticketmaster because I know they do the 50% off, and they do it once a year. You get a game for 50% off. So I'm sitting there in the queue, and then 11 a.m. Pacific time, it kicks off, and it tells me I'm number 11,000 in line.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, because it's my first time doing it. So I just thought, I was going to hop right in and get my tickets. By the time it actually was my turn, there was no 2 seats together, and I'm taking my girlfriend. It's her first football game. So I'm super pumped about this game. But you predict Denver's going to play with their hair on fire, and potentially this is going to be Bo Nix's breakout game, which would be almost poetic justice for Bronco fans for that to happen with Russell Wilson on the other side of the field. What does a breakout game for Bo Nix look like? Is 3 touchdown passes a breakout game for him? And do you think this game's going to be close, or Denver's really going to just kind of feed off of the electricity in the stadium? I can't imagine what it's going to be like, but I bet it's going to be electric. Like, it's going to be so loud in that stadium. Russ is probably not going to hear.
Yeah.
There's fans talking about counting down the play clock.
They have to.
We have to, right?
We have to.
But yeah, like, how do you feel about this game, and what is Bo Nix's breakout game look like to you?
Yeah. I think specifically against the Steelers, a breakout game for a rookie quarterback is going to be not the 300-yard game, not a 2-3 touchdown game, right? Because we're talking about a Steelers defense, right? We're talking about TJ Watt. We're talking about a defense that's historically, been one of the best defense in the league year in and year out. So I don't think that it's going to take 3 touchdowns from Bo Nix to be a breakout game. I don't think it's going to take a 300-yard game to be a breakout game, because I don't think it's going to take many points to beat this Steelers team this year. They're gonna be Nebraska. The old Nebraska, last year's Nebraska, or Iowa, not Nebraska. Iowa. They're gonna be like Iowa. They were even wearing the same colors. Great defense. Their offense is screwed. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. I just don't see a world in which Russell Wilson comes out against a defense that's watched him for 2 years up close and in person, that made him look silly from the stories and reports that I got from camp from the last 2 seasons. Kind of made him look silly during camp, during practices, and let him come in and beat them after wasting 2 years of their contracts. Like, there's no way. There's no way. And so I think a breakout game is going to be, Bo Nix just looking miles better than the quarterback that's on the other side of the field that used to be wearing orange and blue. And it's not going to take much, but I think this is going to be, people are going to be like, okay, Bo Nix went out and threw for 260 against the Steelers defense. He might be the real deal. He went out there and led 4 scoring drives. He might be the real deal. I think that might be what it looks like.
Well, if you're right, if Sean Payton couldn't get Russ, he did remotely fix Russ. He didn't get him to where he needed to be, but he was, 15th. He was a middle of the pack quarterback, but now he's going to a defensive coach. I think if Denver scores more than 17 points, they probably win this game.
I don't even want to talk about that number 17.
I know, dude.
That's like a curse word in Broncos
It
language.
is. And imagine how I felt at that Seahawks game when the final score was that. And then imagine the next year against the Raiders. It was the same thing. And I'm like, is it me? Do I need to stop going to these games? Like,
I'm not going to tell you what you need to do, but no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about Bo Nix because I have a question here that I'm kind of excited about. So this quarterback class is ridiculous. And I went on and said, I think this might be the greatest quarterback class ever when it's all said and done. We'll have to see, but that's how high I am on him. Now, Caleb Williams gets all the attention right now. Hard Knocks is on him. The cameras are on him.
Right.
Rightfully so. Like he's been that guy in college, and now he is on a team that it looks like they're ready to compete. Then you have Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix. So Bo Nix is kind of like, when Sean said that they were like orphan dogs, even though he was a first round pick, it was like he was the last of the group of quarterbacks. It was almost like he was the odd man out.
Yeah.
And the media is kind of reflecting that they're not really high on Bo Nix. So let me ask you this. If these other quarterbacks weren't in the draft and Bo Nix, say, was the only first round quarterback, do you think the Bears would have moved off of Justin Fields to draft Bo Nix?
That's a tough question. I don't know, because I think all of the moves that the Bears made, trading Justin Fields, bringing in, the receivers that they brought in, bringing in who's the D lineman that they got from Washington, Montez Sweat. Yeah. So all of the moves that they've made, I think were a piece of what they did. So I don't know if they would have done those things or if they would have done those things or not. I don't know. That's an interesting one. And then the same thing goes for the Commanders at the second pick. Would they have moved off of Sam Howell? Would they have gone for another shot at it if it wasn't another Heisman winner going? And I think that's a part of the conversation that people miss, is that these teams are taking swings at Heisman winners, and it's Heisman quarterbacks are sometimes they're awesome, sometimes they're not, and so that's a hard question to answer. I don't know if he would go first overall. Not saying that I don't think that Bo Nix is a better quarterback than Justin Fields. Obviously, I don't think anybody would argue that Justin Fields is a better quarterback than Bo Nix. I just think that a team that's led by, Matt Eberflus or, a defensive coach in any sort of the term would be nervous to take a swing at a guy like Bo Nix, who had, not the best time at Auburn. He had three different, he had a different coordinator every year he was in college. So he's learned, this is his sixth system in 6 years. Like, that's crazy, first of all. And just a guy that's got those miles. I don't know if a defensive minded coach would have been willing to take a swing at someone like that.
Yeah. And it seems like for Bo Nix to win like offensive rookie of the year, he would have to almost do something miraculous. If Caleb Williams just plays decent, even if Bo Nix's numbers are better, the hype and, because it's a voting based award. So,
right.
I could see that happening. Do you think, let's say Denver does win 11 games this year and they're a playoff team and the Bears win 9 games. Like, do you think early in the season, Bo Nix could bring the attention on him in a positive way? Like you said, this is going to be his breakout game. Is that for Bronco fans and him, professionally, or is this like the whole world is going to know who Bo Nix is early in the season?
Yeah. I think That's a good question. I think it's mostly going to be for Bo Nix professional. Did I lose you?
Just for a
I'm still
second.
here.
Yeah, I got you. Can you hear me?
Okay. I think what it's really going to come down to is just looking for Bo specifically. It's going to come down to him being more confident in himself. I think that's what that's going to turn out to be. And Broncos fans, when he goes out and beats Russell Wilson, like he's going to build a statue like right away. You know what I mean? So like essentially just for the Broncos, it'll be his breakout game. But I don't know that it'll be a national scale until he gets his first primetime game, which is the Thursday night game in Week 7. And all eyes are going to be on that game because we're playing the Saints.
Yeah,
right. Like
I'm going to that one.
Sean Payton's going back to New Orleans. Bo Nix in prime time. It's gonna be awesome to watch. And I think that'll be the earliest probably that Bo Nix gets put on the map. But you get to the end of the season, Broncos have 11 wins. They're the 5th seed or 6th seed, depending on how things shake out.
Assuming Kansas City wins.
Yeah, assuming we don't win the AFC West. Yeah, absolutely. You have to sit down and you have to look at the Broncos team and you have to say, well, what's different? Why were they only able to win 5 games and then 8 games, and now they're winning 11? What's different here? And then the only thing that you can look at is say, they got a quarterback. It's the rookie quarterback. It's Bo Nix. So I think if they win 11 games, even if, he doesn't get, a lot of the media attention and a lot of the hype, which I think he will, people like to pay attention to rookie quarterbacks. I think it would be his award at that point.
You said Charger fans don't actually exist.
I've never met one. is what I mean by that. I'm just like, that's just anecdotal evidence. I've never met one.
I used to work with one, but there is a caveat to it. It would be like week 4 and the Chargers would be like 2-2. And I would be like, oh, what'd you think of the game? And he's like, I didn't watch it. Like he would give up on them. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like I couldn't give up on Denver. Even in their worst years, I have to suffer through it. Like,
bro, I was holding on to my breath when Jarrett Stidham was playing against the Patriots in Week 18 last year.
Yeah, like, the Raiders, you mean?
Yeah, Week 17.
Yeah,
against the Patriots.
But yeah, it's like, oh, maybe they don't exist. That one fan. This is the fan that was a super fan that was on TV with, you remember that during the Chargers game? She was yeah. So
she looked like she was a paid actor. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So then they find out she has a Vikings jersey and she just like cheers for the home team, I guess, wherever she is. Is she real?
I think she is, right? She came on, what was it, Good Morning Football, I think, following that game. Was it a Monday night game or was it a Sunday night game? It was one of the primetime spots.
I believe it was prime time.
Yeah,
not
it was
real as in, does she, I know she's real. I'm like
a real Chargers fan.
Is she actually a paid actor? That was actually something. I'm not a big conspiracy guy, but it makes you wonder.
Yeah, I don't know how else you get people in Chargers gear at the Chargers games. That's, I don't know. It's an ongoing joke too, because being in Kansas City, I'm around AFC West people, all so we all kind of hate the same people,
right?
Mainly the Raiders, and we all have the same joke about the Chargers. I have never seen a Chargers fan in Kansas City. I see Broncos fans all the time. I see Raiders fans all the time. I have never seen a Chargers fan. It is, I don't know. I don't. It's weird. It's bizarre
because they, they don't have like ugly uniforms. They're in a
they look
city.
Sweet.
Yeah, like I remember when I was a kid, the blue. I couldn't publicly say I liked them, but in deep down, I was like, God, those are kind of sick. The LaDainian Tomlinson powder blues.
Yeah, I had an LT poster growing up.
You did?
Yeah, just as a running back, I respected his game so much. LT was a dog.
Yeah.
Even if he played for the wrong team, he was still so fun to watch. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so who's your favorite Raider of all time? Like somebody you're not supposed to like, but you just wish that they were on your team.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Yeah, it's tough because there's not that many good Raiders.
Yeah. Is it a cop out for me to say Darren McFadden?
No, not at all.
I would have to probably go with D-Mac. I
Okay.
mean, I was jealous of Derek Carr for a little bit, because we went so long without having a serviceable quarterback, someone that could get the job done. But I would have to say safely it would have to be D-Mac.
Yeah, I think for me it would be probably Max Crosby.
Yeah.
I wish he was on the right team. Like,
Yeah, he's special.
and Devontae Adams too, because see, I was born in Wisconsin, so all my family, they're huge Packer fans.
Right.
I was at Brett Favre's last game as a Green Bay Packer. I always cheer for the Packers, but when they're playing the Broncos, there's like a clear separation of who it's
Right.
like there's no part of me that's like I'm torn, like I'm Broncos all the way, but I do root for the Packers, and I like Devontae Adams. I don't know if you saw his interview with Shannon Sharp on Shannon Sharp's podcast. What's it called? Club Shay Shay.
Yeah, no, I had a chance to see that, but he was great in this season of Netflix receiver.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was like, dang it, why are they making me like him so much?
I know.
That was the one guy I was like, I don't want to like him, but dang.
Yeah, he's easy to like because he wasn't drafted by the Raiders. He just, followed the money. But
Yeah.
all right. So you said the Jets were gonna beat the Broncos along with Tampa. So you do have this 2-2 start. The Jets, I get. Tampa, I think there's a chance Broncos could go, because if they do start 2-0, there's going to be like that energy where it's like, all right, we're 2-0.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's possible that they could get a win in Tampa. Do you think this is crazy talk?
No, I don't. I definitely don't. This is one of the games too that I'm like, this one could go the other way for us. I do. There might be a slight hangover from beating Russ. I'm not gonna lie.
That's a good point.
Just around the locker room, all of the emotion that I think is going to go into that game. I mean, these guys are, they're professional athletes, but I mean, they're still football players. They care about stuff,
Right.
I mean, Mike McGlinchey kind of took a jab at Russell Wilson this
About
past
when he was
week.
talking about Bo Nix.
Yeah, he said he comes in and he does the stuff he has to do, and he doesn't, make a fuss about it, or like in different words.
Yeah, he was like he doesn't have to be somebody's not just.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah, just because he's a star quarterback of a franchise, and
yeah,
I don't know.
So
I
there's
thought
something still there. Yeah,
I thought he was taking a jab at Russ, but then in my head I was like, well, maybe he's just truly saying that it's pretty cool that a rookie comes in and I mean, I don't know, because Mike McGlinchey wasn't on the list of people that had Russ's back. When all the players were tweeting out about like Russ is our quarterback, Mike McGlinchey wasn't one of them. But the Jets, I feel like the Jets are criminally underrated right now. If you look at people's predictions, it's like their third seed, and Colin Coward's, it's like Miami, and then Buffalo is the 1, and then the Jets at 3. I don't get what people are missing here, because we saw Matthew Stafford win the Super Bowl with the Rams. We saw Tom Brady do it in 2020. Now, or 2021. And the thinking was Tampa was a quarterback away. Now, Tampa in 2020 was first in rushing yards allowed per game, and they only allowed 249 passing yards per game. The Jets last year was first in passing yards allowed per game with 163. They were 25th in the rush, but still only allowing 124. Not great, but I mean, if the offenses can't pass the ball, they're just running it a lot.
Right.
I look at their offense, and I think Breece Hall, year 2 from the injury, Garrett Wilson, Like, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be MVP level, but
No.
I think it's possible that he could be, to be honest. I think Aaron Rodgers could come out and have one last really good season. But even if he doesn't, I don't see how the talent on this roster could be a 3 seed. I don't know why, but I think the Jets could win against San Francisco week 1. Like, where are you at with the Jets this year? Because Denver does have to go play that. I think it's a lot tougher of a game than a lot of people do
Yeah.
think.
No, I think so too. I kind of talk about the Jets and the Falcons both kind of in the same breath because I think they're both in kind of identical situations. I think they've got the pieces there. The Falcons even went out and beefed up their defense.
Yeah, Justin Simmons.
Yeah, and I think, but I mean, the Jets defense is crazy. Like their D line is awesome. I mean, we like to give Sauce Gardner a bunch of shit here in Broncos country, but
Yeah,
Sauce is good. Like Sauce can play. And
little
so like,
handsy.
yeah, he is a little handsy. I will say that. But like you mentioned though, like Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, like Garrett Wilson is quarterback proof. Being a Buckeyes fan, I'm an Ohio State guy. Like I love seeing Garrett Wilson be successful, and I could see how excited he was watching Hard Knocks last year. He had all that time with A-Rod, after having to deal with what he had to deal with the year before. I'm not going to speak illy of our guy. He's probably, I don't know if he's backup quarterback or third string quarterback, but he's on our team now, so I'm not going to speak illy of him. But I think just it all comes down to, for the Falcons and the Jets both, will the Achilles hold up in the old man signal caller? I think it's a fair question to ask. And I think if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, if that offensive line can protect him, I think the Jets are going to be legit this year. Like completely legitimate.
Yeah, and it's one of those weird things where somebody gets hurt and people are asking these questions, and I just sometimes feel like it's a little bit unfair. Not unfair. Think about this. Like Anthony Richardson gets hurt last year. Now
Right.
when people are making, predictions about the Colts, they're like, the Colts could be really good if Anthony Richardson, he can, learn, from his mistakes. It's like, dude, he got injured. Like that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that he's a liability. I mean, people get hurt all the time. It was like people were worried about Tua, and it was like, well, I don't know. I'm inclined to think statistically the probability of an injury happening right after it happened is very slim in comparison to how much the media talks about it.
Yeah.
I can't even think of a play. I know Tim Patrick, but he had 2 different injuries. Like, is there even a player that comes to mind that tore an Achilles and then the next year the Achilles didn't hold up? Especially these guys take really good care of their bodies.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers. Like, I do not expect an Achilles injury out of either one of them personally.
Yeah. I think the only thing that kind of makes their injury situation different is their age.
Fair.
They've got so many miles on their body. For the most part, when you see an Achilles injury, it's usually on, someone who's younger in athlete sense of the word. But I mean, yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen. It could be something else, because when you have an injury like that and you start to walk again, you favor it a little bit and you start to lose strength out on some other joints on different parts of your leg or maybe the other leg. So it'll all just come down to, how his aging body, and I say aging, like he's like, what is he, 42? Like
Rodgers?
yeah,
He's
he's
41?
41. I knew he wasn't 45 like Tommy was, but yeah, will it be able to hold up to, having a year of not getting hit, plus another camp where they were kind of, babying him a little bit too. But yeah, I totally think that he probably will stay healthy this year for the most part. And he's going to make everybody remember who Aaron Rodgers was. I truly think so. Especially because he's running a familiar offense. He's not having to run another person's system. right? He's running the Aaron Rodgers offense that was given to Nathaniel Hackett, essentially.
Yeah, and the compensating is something I live with. So in the Navy, I got a blast wound on my right leg because of I never been on a boat. I had a different job, and we had a piece of equipment that malfunctioned, and it just literally, like Alex Smith, like a tib
Oh my
fit,
God.
complete fracture, and they did a leg salvage surgery. But I'm always leaning on my left side,
Yeah.
and it's not just like it messes up your leg or the pain, but it also like messes up your back
Yeah. Your
because
posture, your back, like the alignment, your hips get weird.
it's everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everything. So you make a really good point, and sometimes I forget. Even I'm like, yeah, I should be the first person to know that stuff. But hopefully we do get him. He does turn 41 in December, so he's actually 40
40. Okay.
right now. Just a couple more questions. I always love to ask this question. What's your favorite Broncos moment? And I'm gonna just take one off the playing cards here. So no Demaryius Thomas.
Dang.
I know, because honestly, I think it's everybody's favorite
I
Broncos
agree.
moment.
Yeah. Especially now.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
yeah. Um, you know what was interesting about you is I thought so you seem like a little bit younger. I'm 30.
Tap 30 as well.
You are as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so I I was I didn't remember. I mean, I knew Terrell Davis and John Elway, but like my first quarterback that I remember was Brian Greasy.
Yeah.
Like that was my first jersey, the 14, and then of course Jake Plummer and stuff like that. So I don't know how much you remember of, John Elway and all that stuff, but do you remember like a good, like towards the end when he, back-to-back Super Bowls, do you remember any of that?
No, not like waking up and watching it. I know I did. I know I
Mhm.
sat on the floor with my dad and watched, Broncos games. I mean, Terrell Davis is the reason why, I played running back. Like he was like the entire inspiration, like all the way through high school and college. I would watch Terrell Davis highlights the night before I had a game. I wore the pacifier mouthpiece. I wore the elbow pads. I wanted to run like him. I wanted to be a 3-down back. And so, but it is weird because it's not like vivid memories, like I have vivid memories of going to friends' houses and playing Madden with them and trying to explain to him how to say Greasy and not Garcia, right? Like I'm like, it's Brian Greasy. It's not Garcia. What are you saying? But yeah, I can't say that I have like vivid memories of John Elway's end of John Elway's tenure and Terrell Davis's career. I think too, a lot of it's been kind of not tarnished, but I don't know what a different word would be. Influenced by
Very.
like post Elway lore, post Orange Crush, post back-to-back team lore. Like I want to say that I remember that stuff, but am I really just remembering watching replays on
Right.
NFL Network in 2007? Like, is that what I'm actually remembering?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I some of my earliest memories, the first, I mean, I remember watching Broncos football, but like the first moment that I really remember was I remember watching the divisional round playoff game in 2005 with the Patriots. That was the year that we lost to the Steelers in the AFC Championship game,
yeah,
and the Steelers went on to win the Super Bowl against the Seahawks. But I remember the crowd just going crazy when Ben Roethlisberger came out, and I remember um, there was like a false start because of the crowd noise, and John Elway like ran up and like grabbed Tom Brady, and he was just so fired up. Or John Lynch, not John Elway, John Lynch. But I remember Champ Bailey's 99-yard interception that was
yeah,
fumbled. That's probably one of my favorite moments, even though it was a fumble, and the Patriots got the ball back. It was just such a polarizing play and such a meaningful game. I actually stayed up all night just staring at my ceiling I just couldn't believe, like, I was so happy that we won that game. Sometimes I miss that feeling. Like, sometimes I feel like wins are not that they mean less, but there's something special about being a kid
Yeah.
where they just mean the whole world. And then my buddy Lance was a Steelers fan, and I watched that game at his house, and that didn't go very well. The Steelers kind of handled us in that game, but I would say that's my Broncos moment. Do you have like kind of a bookmark moment where you're like, okay, I definitely remember watching that moment happen early in your life?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think I have like anything in particular. I have, I have players that come to mind that I remember watching, like you throw names out there and people are like, who? Like Eddie Royal. Like
Oh,
I remember
yeah,
watching him return punts was awesome. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like there are just guys names that just kind of come through, like when Elvis Dumerville came to town.
yeah.
Um, that was totally different. But I
His
think
wingspan.
Elvis Dumerville was something else. it
Yeah.
was it was crazy.
Do you remember Eddie Royal's rookie? It was week 1, and I believe the Broncos won. It was a Monday Night Football doubleheader. It was the season opener, and they were in Oakland where they had the baseball field.
Yeah.
And Eddie Royal, Denver won, I think 41-14. I only remember it because it's the same numbers inverted or backwards, so it was easy to remember. But I remember Eddie Royal having a breakout game where he had like 3 touchdowns in that
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
And it was like, who's this guy from Virginia Tech? I think he
Yeah.
was Virginia Tech, right?
I
I
think
think
so.
so. I could be wrong about that, but I'm seeing their colors. But yeah, it's like you forget about Al Wilson. You
Yeah.
know, like Al Wilson was the real deal. Um, do you have a favorite Bronco that comes to mind besides Peyton Manning and John Elway
Yeah.
and Terrell Davis? Like somebody that is like an Eddie Royal, somebody that you wouldn't think, somebody that you just really liked.
Yeah, kind of the not the obvious ones. No, that's a good question. Man. I haven't there was such, if I feel cheating like pulling off of the Manning era, cuz there were great players in every position. So it feels like you're kind of cheating when you take off that. No, I think I was a big fan of Clinton Portis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was not the longest tenure in Denver, but his time in Denver was so fun to watch. Clinton Portis was he was he was awesome to me. Just as a kid that was growing up watching running, like I would specifically turn on football games to watch the running back. Like that's all I wanted to do. Maybe it's because my dad said that that's what I should do when I turn on a game when I'm playing Pee Wee football. It's like, hey, watch the running back, see what they do, try to do what they do.
Yeah.
Um, Clinton Portis was kind of one of those guys for me that I really enjoyed, and I also remember No Sean Moreno.
Mm,
I enjoyed his time in Denver. It ended terribly,
yeah. I
but
remember the day he was drafted. I was
yeah,
riding a dirt bike and I somebody shouted at me, "The Broncos are on the clock," and I ran in and they drafted No Sean Marino, and I was just like, man, kid, I was so not that I'm not happy anymore. It's just like you look back at being a kid and it was like
yeah,
you're just like the weight of the world just wasn't there. You're
yeah.
just no
And
Sean
you
Marino.
see, it's the guy from Georgia. It's the guy that was dominant in the
Yeah.
SEC. It's one of those guys it was really exciting. And how can you not forget No Sean Marino's teardrop?
Yeah, I was just about to bring that
Like
up.
that's one of the most iconic Broncos moments of the last decade. That's
What
still, yeah,
was
that was this
that?
decade, that the last 10 years. I don't even know. That feels like that wasn't real, but there was a lot of tears in his eyes when he blinked that one out, which was crazy.
That was like he's been holding back tears for years type of a tear.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Champ Bailey was probably my favorite Bronco. Um, And I also liked Jason Elam, our kicker.
Solid pick. The underappreciated too.
Yeah, he was awesome. And Mike Shanahan. Do you feel like Mike Shanahan's tenure ended a little too early?
I do, and I feel like it wasn't honored like it should have been, in a sense. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, it was like we just kind of moved off of him like he was a legend.
Yeah, we're just gonna ignore the fact that this guy did something that like only 5 other teams have been able to do. What are we looking at here?
He created the Shanahan tree that's dominating the NFL right now.
Yeah, I always like to talk about like the Broncos connections to the 49ers organization.
Me too.
Like up and down the like front office all the way down to running back. Like there are Broncos connections.
And Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Like
it's crazy. It's
I always
so
tell
crazy.
people the 49ers today are the Broncos I grew up with.
Essentially.
Yeah, like it was like you were always good. You didn't necessarily win the Super Bowl, but you were in the playoffs. It was like the 49ers. Denver had more Super Bowl appearances and losing seasons up until, you
very
get
recently. Yeah.
9 losing seasons straight. You're going to screw that up. But
yeah,
man. Dude, I really enjoyed you coming on here. I'm a huge Broncos fan, and I don't have really any Bronco fans that are directly friends. So I was just like, man, I love this so much. Wouldn't it be cool to just create an atmosphere for Bronco fans to come to you and just talk about the game, just kind of vent. If we lose, win, whatever it is, just a safe place for Broncos country. And I know you're doing great stuff over there. I saw that you have a thing going on right now where you're giving away, I think, is it $100 gift card for anybody that likes or subscribes on YouTube and TikTok?
So it's the winner of the Broncos Hub Pigskin Pick'em group. It's a season long thing. And it was pretty close last year until like week 15. And then I forget what the guy's name that won it. It was the funniest name. I can't even remember it off the top of my head.
How many games did he win? Do you remember? Was he pretty good?
Oh my gosh, his prediction was like 87% accurate.
That's crazy.
Like it was unbelievable. I'm like, dude, how did you call these games? Like, do you have some sort of like hack in your phone where you're picking after the games are happening? I don't understand. Like, I don't understand how this is happening. It was unbelievable.
Dude, or 2 years ago, and this is the last little thing I'll say, but I was in Vegas and I was just there for like 12 hours. But of course, I was leaving the hotel and I saw the sports betting area. So I went over there and there was a game called the Strot. And how it worked was you have to pick every single game and you have to get every game right to win. But every week there's no winner. The money rolls over to the next week. So I was like, how much is it to play? They said $5. I'm like, $5 to win 58,000. Awesome. So I play it and I'm doing all my picks and I'm staring at one game that I'm uncertain with. And it's the Broncos and the Raiders. And I'm like, the Broncos at this point were disappointing and there's a lot of money on the line here. But of course, I went with the Broncos. So the next Sunday, I'm watching all the games. First 1 p.m. window goes by in Washington. That's the 10 a.m. window or 1 p.m. Yeah, 10 a.m. It goes by. I win every game, dude. So it goes into the afternoon slate. And I couldn't believe it. I won every game. And there was one game left, and it was the Broncos-Raiders game. So Denver's up by 10 points. There's like 4 minutes in the fourth quarter, and they're running the clock out. I'm booking my ticket to Vegas. I'm celebrating. I'm at work. I'm like high-fiving people. No one can believe it. And when they're running the clock out, they fumble the ball. Melvin Gordon, I believe, fumbles the football. Classic. Or it might not have been Melvin Gordon.
Probably was.
It probably was. And the Raiders recover it. They drive down and score a touchdown. Then they kick an onside. They recover it, and they get a field goal. And it goes into overtime. They win the coin toss, and that was Devontae Adams' touchdown. Yep. He's waving to the fans.
My wife's never seen me the way that she saw me after that game.
Dude, me either.
I didn't have a chance to win $58,000 also. So my reaction is less like understandable than whatever yours must have been.
Yeah, for so long it was like I was like numb, and every time I thought about it, I was just like, I didn't, dude. It made me feel so. I mean, we had that game,
Yeah.
we had it. To lose like that was, oh my god, it was so rough. And I was like, why am I so? I mean, it was like I bet $5, and it's like, but it's the 58,000 that really hangs on you.
Yeah, you're like, I had a chance at the most money I've ever had in my account
Right.
at one time.
Yeah. Oh, man, and then I was like, "I'm never betting on the Broncos again," and then that, of course, isn't true.
Yeah, well, Josh Jacobs is gone, so the bad feelings can go bye-bye
yeah.
when we play the Raiders. I will say that.
Well, do you have any final words or anything you wanna put out? A lot of the viewers, tune in later.
Yeah.
We, of course, have Bill in here. Bill's our biggest, fan,
Nice.
and he says, "Wow, this is a long one."
It is a long one.
They're all an hour long, Bill. But happy to have you in here. Bill, he's a huge supporter of this podcast, so wanted to shout out Bill. And yeah, Bill, check out his content at Broncos Hub too. And yeah, do you have any final things that you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think if I had a message to tell Broncos fans, which is, something I haven't really had a chance to put out there into the universe yet, is we have to be patient. If Bo Nix doesn't come out and look the way that a lot of people expect him to look the first 3, 4, 5 weeks of the season, we can't just turn on him, like we've done so much over the past 8 years. Not everyone's Peyton Manning. We have to accept that, right? We have such a high standard of quarterback play in the Broncos organization that if someone is even remotely not that good, it's like, what are we doing? Why are we wasting time? Let's move off from this guy. Let's tank. And I just think we're going to love the marriage between Sean Payton and Bo Nix. And if it doesn't look like it's supposed to look the first few weeks of the season, it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. We've got to be patient. That's really all I have to say to Broncos country, other than subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And no, honestly, it's great advice, because when you have the carousel that we've had, it's like you're more quick to be like, oh, he's just, number 11 out of, the other 12 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because we've had so much, so much bad quarterback play. We can't be so quick to be like, oh yeah, Bo Nix belongs in that group. But yeah, I'm hoping that, that we don't have to cross that bridge. I'm hoping week 1 and week 2 he looks awesome. And
I don't think that we're going to have to cross it too. I really do anticipate Bo Nix being a guy that signs a second contract with the Broncos. I mean, when's the last time we had a successful rookie quarterback? John Elway. That was 40 years ago. It's like if it starts to look gloom, you start to look like, oh, this is not the best season ever. Just go look at John Elway's rookie season. You'll feel better about the way that Bo Nix is looking. I promise you that.
Yeah. And if that doesn't do it, go look at Peyton Manning's rookie season.
Peyton Manning's rookie season. Exactly. Like, two of the greatest to ever do it did not play well at quarterback as a rookie. And so I think we might be a little spoiled because we had both of them when they were great. But we didn't really, we had to suffer through kind of and I say we, like I was alive at the time. I wasn't there when John Elway was struggling as a rookie, but they survived because their fans and their coaches were patient. And I think that's what we need to do with Bo Nix.
Yeah.
It's the same reason I shake my head every time people are like, the Broncos should have drafted Josh Allen when we had the chance. I'm like, we would have ran him out of the town after year two. There's no chance that Josh Allen would still be in a Broncos uniform today if we drafted him. There's no chance.
It's a hot take.
It's like one of the takes that I'm like, I will die on this hill. Josh Allen sucked for 2 years. And in those 2 years, the Broncos fan base would have been outside of his house with pitchforks and torches ready to get him out of here.
Had.
That's fair. Yeah, well, Drew Lock. Yeah, Drew Lock didn't have a fair shake. I'm a Drew Lock fan. Like
Me too.
That's
I
my
think
Drew
he's
Lock
going to work
jersey.
out.
He didn't have a fair shake. Vic Fangio hated his guts for some reason. But even still, with Drew Lock, we weren't patient with him either.
Yeah, you look at these defensive coaches and young quarterbacks. It's just not a good combo.
No, it's not.
Mac Jones and Belichick. You saw what Tua and Brian Flores, views about that. Drew Lock and Fangio, and then you see Sean Payton and Bo Nix and Brock
it just looks and feels different.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Yeah,
it matters.
Yeah, and that's I am a little worried about Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams and Drake May for those reasons. When JJ gets healthy, I think he'll come around because of Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, me too.
But for the most part, I think Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and Caleb Williams Caleb Williams has a good situation, but other than that, yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm super, super pumped. The season starts in less than 2 days. Who do you got winning Thursday?
I've got the Ravens winning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not because you hate the Chiefs.
Legit. No, this is like an actual pick. The Chiefs lost the season opener last season when they had the ring ceremony against a team that was like actually coming out in the Lions. And I think it's the same situation with the Ravens this year.
And it's a revenge game, like when the Broncos played
a real
the Ravens
game. Yeah.
So, yeah, man, thanks for coming on. Go subscribe to Strez's channel, Broncos Hub on YouTube, and he's on TikTok and X as well. And that's his at underneath his name. It's _ Strez. Thanks for coming on, man. You're always welcome on this channel. But appreciate your time, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. Really enjoy the conversation. Yeah, man. Go Broncos and God bless. But last thing, the shirt that he is wearing, the link to it is going to be in the description of this video. I already ordered mine, so you'll see me rocking that probably sometime next week. But yeah, get yourself one. Go Broncos and God bless Bo Nix. There we go.